that capture a billion.
Good morning, you're watching All You Need to Know on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Darshan Mehta. First, let's take a look at the global markets, and there was turmoil that was seen on the US market, especially in NASDAQ, which was down almost 1.6%. So that's the traction. Europe on its own ended with a positive bias, but the global cues from US were rather weak in trade. Asia is mixed at this point of time. The Japanese markets have managed to move up much higher, but there is pain that's been seen on the Hong Kong markets and Shanghai markets. The SGX Nifty 2 is indicating a slight weak start, down by almost 39 points. At one point of time, it was down 70 points, so that has actually cooled down from the lows of the day. That's the trend that we can expect. So probably we will still open about the 10,200 mark in trade. Surprisingly, HDFC Bank, despite Aditya Puri's reappointment, it was down 4% in trade, given the weak sentiments that we saw in our markets. Infosys was down. Tata Motors managed to move up, and Wipro managed to move up in trade. The other ADRs also managed to inch much higher. Wipro has been doing well. ICICI Bank reflecting the strong numbers that it had. So the majority of the reaction for ICICI Bank was on Friday, but nevertheless the residual reaction coming in on the counter. How did our markets pan out in trade? Rip rolling rally on the Nifty, 2.2% higher, and across the broader market, the mid cap and small cap end of the market also you saw buying that came in. The Nifty PSU Bank was the biggest gainer. It gained almost 8%. It's the biggest gain that the index has had since the recapitalization news that came in exactly a year ago, and the Nifty Bank was up almost 2.2%, led by ICICI Bank. How did some of the sectors pan out in trade? The pharma sector, led by Dr. Reddy's and Divi's, did well, and the Nifty Metal Index was up almost 2.6% in trade. If you're looking at where the flows came in, FIs was sellers to the tune of almost 2,000 crores in the cash market. DIs have bought in almost 2,500 crores in the cash market yesterday. How did the Nifty manage to pan out? It was basically ICICI Bank, Reliance, L&T, and TCS, the large caps that managed to rally on the Nifty. Private sector banks are seeing selling pressure. HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, IndusInd Bank, and HDFC, all of them were down in trade yesterday. So despite the drops that we've seen in some of the large caps, the Nifty still managed to rally significantly. As far as the commodity bets are concerned, crude is down for the second day in a row. You could see that the crude is trading below the $77 barrel per mark. As far as metals are concerned, most of the metals on the LME had a negative close. You can see the traction that's coming in. Aluminium was weak, copper was flat, but zinc, nickel, lead, and tin, all of them were down close to 1% to 2%. Even if you're looking at what's happening in China currently, look at zinc. Zinc is down almost 2% in China currently, while there is negative traction that's coming in most of the base metals in China. How did our markets pan out on the FNO side? There was short covering that was seen both on the Nifty and the Bank Nifty. The Nifty managed to rally 2.5%, but look at the open interest drop, just a 0.27%. Similar was the case with the Nifty Bank. Look at the open interest drop of 6%, and the counter did manage to rally, given the fact that there is short covering that is seen on both the indices. As far as stocks, as far as the open interest build-up is concerned, 10,000 is the biggest support, and 10,200 now is the immediate support that the Nifty is looking at, and at higher levels, call writers are active. Yesterday, since the market managed to rally, call writers were forced to shed positions in open interest, and put writers became aggressive. Look at the red lines, and those are the put writers that are becoming aggressive in trade. Adani Power is the only stock in the FNO ban, and as far as the Nifty PCR is concerned, that managed to move in much higher. But the interesting thing was to look at the Bank Nifty PCR. From 0.66, it's moved to almost 1.26. A couple of stocks that I want to highlight. The first stock that I want to highlight is Ambuja Cements. Block deal happening in the counter. Look at the open interest build-up of 63%, and fresh buying was seen on the counter. The second stock is Divi's Lab. Strong set of numbers, high open interest build up, and the counter managed to move up to lifetime highs. The third counter that I want to highlight, and that is Voltas, didn't manage to move up as much as the others, but look at the open interest build up of almost 25%. So there is definitely something accumulation that is happening on the index and on the counter. And the last one is Indiabulls Housing Finance. Short covering was seen, open interest was down 2%, and the counter managed to move up almost 13% in trade. So these are all the domestic cues. Let's go across to Bloomberg's Paul Allen for all the top international headlines.
Mexican stocks, bonds and the peso plunged as the incoming president scrapped a $13 billion airport project backed by some of the country's wealthiest people. Andrés Manuel López Obrador acted after almost 70% of respondents to a voluntary referendum voted against the project, which is already 1/3 completed. Analysts say it could pressure the central bank to raise rates. The US Treasury says government borrowing will more than double this year from last to $1.34 trillion as the Trump administration finances a rising budget deficit. The department expects to issue $425 billion in net marketable debt from October through to December, although that's lower than the estimated $440 billion forecast in July. Bank of America plans to pay special bonuses for a second straight year after seeing profits jump on tax cuts and a focus on costs that's eliminated thousands of jobs. Cash bonuses of $1,000 will be paid in December to eligible staff earning less than $100,000 annually. CEO Brian Moynihan says many higher paid employees will receive a stock award early next year. Bloomberg sources say some Google employees are planning to walk off the job, unhappy with CEO Sundar Pichai's response to a report about alleged sexual harassment by executives. We're told the protest may happen on Thursday and see workers leave their desks at the same time. They're said to have compiled a list of requests for the company aimed at helping anyone affected by sexual harassment or power dynamics at work. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Paul Allen. This is Bloomberg.
Well, one would expect with the Dow Jones up over 200 points, we would expect oil prices to rebound. The fact that they haven't really tells you that two different things are going on here. One, there's been a sector rotation out of the oil market, and oil looks to continue its path lower. Should break through the 200-day moving average right around 65.27. A lot of concerns about demand. We're seeing weakening demand from China. The Brent crude was down over 4% last week. And if you look at the supply side of things, you know, OPEC is really going to step up in different areas. Like Saudi Arabia has really increased their production. It doesn't look like they're going to halt that increased production anytime soon. They've really grabbed a lot of market share selling oil to China. They've really stolen it from the U.S. because the U.S. isn't exporting anything to China right now. And if you look internally, the U.S., our imports have rallied for 2 straight weeks. If you look at the 5-year stockpiles, we're higher than that average. So crude oil prices look like they've got a lot of pressure ahead of themselves.
How much of this is a dollar story?
Well, the dollar did play an impact today. We saw that dollar play on several different commodities, soybeans, gold, crude oil. They're all under pressure because of that rally. I think Angela Merkel put some pressure on the euro currency with her comments earlier saying that she wouldn't, run for elections. So that boosted the dollar index. Also, it boosted the, interest rates, too. So that'll all weigh in on crude oil.
We've got data coming up. How big a factor is that going to be?
Well, if you look at, some of the things coming out here later in the week, we're going to have that jobs number come out. That is going to probably boost the equities, and I think that you'll see more of a sector rotation, probably putting in pressure on the oil market.
Back to local equity markets, bunch of news that you're tracking this morning. To begin with Redington, where the company has proposed a buyback of 1.1 crore equity shares at a price of around 125 each, which indicates a premium of more than 40% from the current market price. Second in the list is Naren Holding, where the company has proposed to divest 48% stake in the JV company. Third in the list, we have Jet Airways, which has appointed Boston Consultancy Group along with the Goldman for scouting as well as the revival of its operational efficiency. This is a Mint exclusive that we're tracking. Bunch of earnings that we're tracking this morning. LIC Housing Finance to begin with, in line with estimates number. NII, we have seen a 9.2% growth on year-on-year basis, and in terms of net profitability, it's more than 11% growth there. Second in the list that we have Union Bank of India. Good set of numbers reported by the bank. Net profit of the company has stood at around 139 crore versus a net loss of around 1,530 crore, mainly on account of the 53% reduction that we've seen in provisioning. Asset quality of the bank also remains stable around that 15.74% as compared to 16% sequentially. DCM Shriram, that's weak set of number reported by the company on consolidated basis. Net profit is down by 1.9% to a number of 168 crore as compared to 172 crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter, and we've seen a muted operational performance mainly weighed down down by the earnings of the sugar sector here. Spark, that's good set of number reported by the company. Significant reduction in the employee cost has led to substantial reduction in the EBITDA loss, which has been reported by the company. A number of 5.1 crore of EBITDA loss compares to that of 61 crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter. Net profit has narrowed down to 2.6 crore as compared to 62.6 crore by the company. Just Dial, well, that's good set of decent show coming in from the company. Net profitability, we've seen a 30% uptick there to a number of 49 crore as compared to 37.5 crore seen in the corresponding quarter. Mahindra Holidays and Resorts, that's the last set of number that we're tracking, a weak set of number. Top line growth, we've seen a 12%, a 13% downtick there. In terms of the operational efficiency, a higher cost clearly weighing down on the operational performance of the company, 57% downticks. And in terms of the net profitability, we're looking at a 54% downtick to a number of around 14.5 crore as compared to nearly 31 crore in the corresponding quarter.
I think people are becoming more risk averse, and people are looking at, there is a period of time when you're only interested in looking at upsides. Now I find people are looking at both upsides and downsides. And that has kind of changed the environment to a more cautious kind of view that people have. The positive at this point of time clearly is the fact that people are continuing in SIPs, which they should do when the markets are down. And that is a positive, that while people are looking at how to invest more carefully lump sum money, they are continuing with the SIPs, and that is a positive development.
You are known to identify, as I said, some of the most interesting contrarian bets. Where are you contrarian right now?
Actually, we are contrarian in quite a few PSUs.
Interesting.
Because many of those PSU stocks have come down to very low valuations. And in, as usual, in one of the sectors which has done very badly is telecom recently. So I've gone back to telecom because telecom as a sector does look to be one of the most important sectors from the way all of us use. So I would say that's another interesting. And clearly the corporate facing banks with a deposit franchise has been another very key area where we are keen on. Another area which I would say contrarian is metals, but metals have always been volatile, and I believe over the last 5-6 years there's been no new capacity which has come up, which actually should help these. They fit many of my criteria. It's an import substitution sector. It's a sector where new competition is not being seen, and it benefits out of the entire dollar-rupee move. So I would say that's another sector. These are some of the areas where we have actually bet on.
Well, BPCL reported a weak set of numbers in the second quarter. Now, if you see the headline numbers for Bharat Petroleum, the revenue was up by only 1% to close to 72,292 crore rupees, while the EBITDA that was lower by nearly 38% to close to 2,400 crore rupees. Margins contracted to 3.3%, while net profit now that plunged nearly 47% to close to 1,200 crore rupees. Now, it was a weak quarter on the back of lower than expected sales volume, lower than expected gross refining margin, inventory gains, and higher forex losses, which impacted the second quarter numbers of BPCL. Now, if you see inventory gains, now they were lower by nearly 46% to close to 1,435 crore rupees, while the foreign exchange loss reported by the company was close to 930 crore rupees. Now, the gross refining margin, now that came in at around $5.57 per barrel for BPCL. Now, this was lower because of one of the fire incidents that took place in one of the refineries of BPCL, that is the Mumbai refinery. Now, crude throughput that was also lower because of the same reason by close to 2.2% to 7.57 million metric tons, while sales volume now that was lower by around 8% to close to 10.08 million metric tons. Now, analysts were working with a number of close to 10.9 million metric tons, but it came in at around 10 MMT, which was the main reason why the BPCL numbers were below analyst estimates. Lastly, in the balance sheet side, if you see, the debt of the company was higher by nearly 22% to close to 24,000 crore rupees, and also the tax rate, now that was marginally higher at 35% versus 32% reported by the company in the last quarter.
Well, we're expecting a strong quarter from Tech Mahindra, considering an expectation of 4% growth on a quarter basis when it comes to its revenues. We're expecting its EBITDA margins to expand to around 14.1% against 12.9% sequentially, and profits could rise as much as 13% quarter on quarter to around a little over 1,013 crores. Now, in terms of factors that could come in aid of Tech Mahindra is its communications business. We're expecting strength to come through here. On the other hand, the strength could be partially offset by subdued, business in the enterprise vertical. We're seeing an improving business mix, which could lead to further gains in margins. And speaking of margins, it's likely to see the benefit of the weakening rupee against the US dollar as well. Absence of seasonality in Comviva is the other aspect which will aid margins going in. What we're going to keep an eye on, of course, is the health and updates in Lightbridge Communications. We're also watching out for commentary, perhaps the most important thing in its clients and their plans for capital expenditure, specifically in 5G. And finally, traction and deal wins in the enterprise space. On the whole, we're expecting a good quarter from Tech Mahindra.
Paytm Mall, the online retailing platform of India's largest digital payments company, Paytm lost close to about 5 crores a day in the year ended March 2018 as it aggressively expanded its footprint in India's e-commerce market, which is largely dominated by Amazon and Walmart. Now, Paytm spent close to about 2,500 crores in March for the year ended March 2018, as per the filings made to the register of companies, out of which close to 900 crores was a part of the advertisement spent alone. Now, if you look at Paytm Mall's losses, it lost close to about 1,700 crores, but was only able to generate a revenue about roughly 700 crores for the year ended March 2018. Now, Paytm Mall was carved out in August 2016 as a separate entity out of 197 Communication Limited, the company behind the brand Paytm, and is been slowly emerging as one of the key player in the India's e-commerce ecosystem, and is backed by one of the key major investors such as Alibaba, SoftBank Vision Fund, and also has SAF partners. And over the last 1.5 years has also managed to raise more than $600 million and is last valued at about more than $2 billion.
Hi, I'm Richard Corrigan. So let's open this, yeah? I kind of expect food like this and sports supplements and people doing bodybuilding. People are more interested in their 8-pack. I mean, if anyone is equipped with ever a powdered soup, that's exactly is the consistency of that powder. I'm going to treat it like a cocktail. To whom? It's like your breakfast cereal pulverized with water. It's not necessarily nasty. It's totally acceptable. On the basis of something like this, you could take some really, really good yogurt, add it to it, and put it in the liquidizer. Satura. It's a similar smell than previous. Ooh. Very, very chalky flavor. It really is mincing up your teacher's chalk. What would make it better? Well, by not removing the cap from it in the first place would be a fantastic achievement. I'll tell you what came into my head there, Wayne. A nice smoked aubergine puree with a little bit of this added to it. A touch of cumin. You might have something. Our final one, Soylent. Oh my God. Wow. There's no hints. My tongue receptacles that tells my brain what's going on have gone Soylent. I mean, if you took the best out of these things and added them to a few puree, you'd end up with a quite interesting, fully loaded meal, really. The whole thing about being human is the social interaction. It's the sitting, it's the sharing, it's cracking open a bottle of wine. So unfortunately, I will never be part of it. But for those who are, there's a couple of options.
Lots of seasonal good fruit, lots of yogurt. Once a year.
Well, there's lots of stories just like that one that you can find at the website bloombergquint.com. Here are a couple of other stories that you'll find if you log on as of now. Bharti Airtel is delaying a planned initial public offering of its Africa unit due to the turmoil in emerging market stocks. And that's according to people with knowledge of the matter who have spoken to Bloomberg. The plan to list has now been pushed by half a year, and the company plans to seek an enterprise value of $8 billion. The Speaker of Sri Lanka's parliament has warned that his country could descend into political violence if the legislature remains suspended throughout a leadership struggle that has plunged the island nation into a constitutional crisis. The capital, Colombo, was gripped by political intrigue after President Maithripala Sirisena said he had to fire Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe late on Friday because of an assassination plot. Sirisena appointed former strongman Mahindra Rajapaksa, who ruled between 2005 and 2015 as the country's new prime minister, and by Saturday had suspended parliament. Wickremesinghe responded by describing his ousting as blatantly illegal, unconstitutional and opportunistic. That's all you need to know going into trade today. Up next is Indian Open, so do stay tuned. This is Bloomberg Quint.